Record Breakers in 3, 2, 1. Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast of friends sharing music with each other, kind of a book club for music. We each take turns sharing an album, and the hilarity ensues. I'm Peter Rev, your man with no plan. Here with me,
and no internet for weeks.
Yes, and no internet for weeks. Oh god, and we're back. Here with me again, reunited, and it feels so good. Is our crew, our team, our squad. We've got Brett.
Ahoy hoy.
We've got Drew.
Hey.
And we've got Patrick.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.
Yes. We're here to talk about music, and the provider of the album this week, and this time, and once again, is Drew. If you remember from all those times years ago, many moons ago, he was the one.
Moon.
Yeah. What do you got for us?
This one I pulled up just because I've been digging into the music genre herein, and I've been digging what I've been hearing. So I sort of pulled out one that's considered a pretty good slice of what that is. And it's actually the name of the album. It's also sort of a pseudonym for the genre that it's in. It's a French electronic musical creator known as Kavinsky, and his album Outrun.
Mm-hmm. It's like naming an album Rock and Roll.
No, you got to name it a Sega video game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like naming your album Bubble Bobble.
Yes.
You know, I'd put that record on.
Columns.
If Anna Monoguchi came out with a record called Bubble Bobble, that would be freaking sweet.
And then put that on the playlist with your everyone's favorite album, ActRaiser.
ActRaiser was fucking cool, though.
Damn, I feel bad for Ben not being able to beat that. But that being said,
I was like, "What the hell's he go?" Oh, yeah, I remember that. Back when he had internet, that was something.
Yes. But let's talk about expectations. Brett, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
I mean, I was familiar with some songs off of this, especially one that you couldn't get away from forever. But no, I had never really delved into the pseudo 80s. I just chopped up and snorted the straight 80s electronic sounds instead of the pseudo fake. But you know, just like I like. Well, I guess I don't actually like the fake 50s, but I do like the fake 70s and the fake 80s. And like I think that the fake late 80s is a great place to spend a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not the one who told Drew about this album. But I've been listening to this for a while, probably the last year or so. It's awesome.
We've all been listening to this for a while.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. But I was familiar with this. I sought it out. When I heard that it existed and sort of the basic concept of it, I was like, yeah, man. Mm-hmm. And then realized I had heard one of these songs in a movie several years ago.
Nice. Yeah. This is a really interesting album musically. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
I think Brett sort of alluded to it. This album is very like 80s inspired, as much of, as I said, that Outrun, Synthwave, whatever you want to call it, is. Taking its name from that beautiful game in 86, using the Ferrari. This album, conceptually, is supposed to follow a kid who crashed his car in the 80s and came back as a zombie to create, and this is what Kavinsky was aiming for, is a zombie that came back to create house music. And this is the album therein. that he created the character, which I think is hilarious. For one, as a backstory of an album that is pretty much just like super like 80s inspired. Like Brett said, this is something that if you're familiar with sort of that sort of house music sort of idea, imagine that like plucked out of the 80s, right? And something that the synths in this are heavy and reverby. There is some just really cool layering within that as well. The drums to me have like that very driving feel to it, and the parts where there are like hints in lyrics that are smattered within a couple of songs of the actual underlying story and the crash of this Ferrari Testarossa and all that sort of stuff is just cool. Like this album from front to back is something that when you think of something that would ooze style in all of the good and the bad that can bring, I think this does that very well. It's something that, like I've been saying for a while, I've been getting into weird, like the synth waves and the vapor waves and all that sort of stuff. And this, I think,
Simpsons
is something
wave?
I've watched too many. Look, when I go on YouTube, there is a vaporwave like chilled out channel that does like that sort of music, and it's definitely Simpson wave inspired because it's definitely just Bart with his stupid cassette player bobbing back and forth. I'm not proud of myself, but it's something that's kind of neat. But I figured like this for that like synthwave sort of thing is something that is a perfect vertical slice of like, hey, this is what that is. And I think it's a good stepping stone into that because it's catchy and it does it well, but it doesn't like overdo it. It's not super strange or anything. And I don't think it's going to put anybody off. It's just a fun time.
Yeah. Brett, what would be the themes elements that caught your attention?
Well, I'll piggyback off a lot of what Drew said, but musically, there's a lot of ambient synths. There's some 80s high gain and super sustainy guitar, some hot synth melodies, modulation everywhere you look. I think this album is at its best when there really aren't vocals, because I'm one of those guys. I think that a lot of the composition of this album is done very, very well. But the vocals are somewhat, there's a little bit of English is not their first language going on that I enjoyed a little bit on some of the lyrics, and then there's a wide variety of vocals to choose from on this album, but really like what brung you was the weird like John Carpenter written score type sounds and the sound of what an LED must sound like when you're on the drugs. It's not exactly a straight 80s like sound. It's sort of the revisionist 80s aesthetic, but it caters to what I enjoy. But it's well put together. I mean, it's put together by a it's a DJ's album. This thing it would not have been released unless it was exactly the way that they wanted it to come out, and it shows. It's a very, very solid, polished album.
Yes.
And exactly all of what Drew said as well.
Yes.
That is something that, actually, to point that out, that's something cool, I think, that you get with that sort of some electronic music when the person that's making it really cares, is that he's one dude and he can take the time on it that he wants. Like, there's no one else pushing him. Like, he was like, no, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. That's why Daft Punk's made, 4 records in total. They can just do whatever they want and take the time that they want, and it's fine.
Yeah. And the vocals provided by a Frenchman and a Brazilian chick. And then
through a vocoder a lot.
Yes. Patrick, what would be the themes elements that caught your attention?
So this is the way I kind of think of it. It's rooted in French house, but which most people think of with Daft Punk because
I bet he's a real jerk. His bedside manner and French house.
So-
I'd watch French
Smells
house.
bad, lots of cheese.
yes,
It's still not
Slightly more
lupus.
smoking.
slightly more smoking and a lot more alcohol. But Daft Punk music is almost all if it's sample based, it's disco. And to the point where Daft Punk went and made a fucking disco record.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
disco
take-
punk record for
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah. This is taking that same concept, but like pulling everything out of like 80s electropop. This is like if Daft Punk wasn't doing disco, but they were doing like Gary Newman and Soft Cell. Like it's taking that sort of a sound and the instruments and the ideas of that, and then mixing it with like modern house music and not super modern, but like French house circa, late 90s, early 2000s. Like it has that. There are more than a few songs on here that are what I would call Daft Punk-esque, and I say that as a compliment because I love Daft Punk, and I think they're, if you want to know the height of electronic music, they're pretty damn close to the top of that mountain. But this is again with the 80s aesthetic spelled out with spaces in a really good font.
Yeah.
It's and like I am someone who loves the concept of a driving album, and this is built for it. This is an album where like late at night, windows down, darkness, alone on the road. It's perfect. It is the soundtrack of
city
that.
lights going by you and
Drugs all up in your nose.
The-
So,
the-
the
the
imaginary
sugar,
Miami
as it
Nights.
Yes.
the
PD,
Are we having technical difficulties?
I have to do the thing where I plug the microphone in. I'm gonna have to check what the hell the deal is with this microphone, or this cable, right? This cable.
always
Don't accept
Um,
bad cables, Petey.
Yeah. But I was saying the imaginary Miami Nights,
This is Grand Theft Auto Vice City, the album, without like it is
Soundtrack done by John Carpenter.
Yes. if the Grand Theft Auto Vice City soundtrack was done by John Carpenter, it would be this.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a fun album to listen to on your drive, even if like you just have like a little 15-minute commute like I do. Like you just have like a quick little commute and just like pump it up, and it can make it even more fun and enjoyable. But yeah, let's talk about some of the key tracks. Some of the songs, zeroing on them. Drew, what are some of the key tracks zeroing in on?
well, sorry. Part of this is going to be me doing the Drew thing a little bit. But Prelude, I don't know if I really count that as a full song, because Prelude to Blizzard is the monologue, and that sound gets you into sort of the mood of what the album is going to be, and then Blizzard sort of hits that like, hey, the idea is there's a zombie that got into a car wreck in the 80s, and he woke up in the 2013 and he decided to make music like that. Like, so it's like, if you're doing it as the score to a movie, this is the guy out of time and out of place and doesn't know where he's at in the mystery. Like, that's what Blizzard, to me, like, that actually, like, when you can do that without words, I think that's really cool. And then that leads into Protovision, which I think is, that song just fucking oozes style out of everything. I fucking love Protovision and everything it stands for. Testarossa Overdrive. To me, that song just, again, the beat itself hits you over the head in a way that just, if you want to talk about drive, before we get into my last song I'm going to talk about, like, this is a song you can drive to. Like, this is a song that, like, really gets you, like, sort of in that sort of feel, like cruising down the road, like you feel fucking cool. But the song that was in Drive was Night Call, and that song is just also like the effect on the vocal, the sound of the synth. Like if you want to take like that retro wave ideal and you want to take like a chunk of like what every instrument could sound like and what the like basis of that could be, and melding that sort of 80s inspiration into something new, like Night Call is that vertical slice. Like it is, I've said it before and I'll say it again, like there are sometimes a song in a genre that like you can pick out and be like, this has all of the elements that people use in this genre and used in a really cool way. And it was used in the movie Drive, and that's kind of cool too.
Snake
Also
on
with
the
the
jacket.
lead singer of Considers Her Sexy, which is cool. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, I'm going to not do the Drew thing, and I'm just going to talk about like 3 songs, but that's because there were 3 songs that I believe rose to the top. One of them being Protovision, because I enjoy the simple, like higher registered, reverbed out, high gain guitar licks under the beats. It's not too much. It's a nice little tight package, the crafted with care. Rampage, always pick player 1. But the symphonic string swells and the pounded out melody, sort of, on the left end of the piano are really put to really, really great use with the, John Carpenter-esque synth pad and the beat. It's pretty great. And then Night Call. Night Call, it's the song you've probably heard. It's probably the song what brung this album. But it's probably one of the better uses of a vocoder in Record Breakers history. We haven't gotten into any real auto-tuned fun stuff. Any kind of vocal, like less is more when it comes to changing people's voices through synthesizers. But there was also some really, really great English is not my first language, like when the word there becomes dare and the becomes duh. It's very endearing. I enjoyed it very much. But
I like it very much.
I do. I like it a lot. But
almost like a light blue
there's some other hot bangers on this, but really those 3 stuck with me like the plague.
Yes.
For through 2 hurricanes, this album has kept me company.
Yes. Patrick, how would you do? What would be some of the key tracks for you?
So I'm going to end up saying some of the same. Protovision is the Daft Punkiest song I think on here, but again with that Gary Newman aesthetic. Testarossa Auto Drive. I've been planning on purchasing a vehicle for a long time.
You can get a Ferrari Testarossa?
There. No, but like when I finally have a car that doesn't shake at 85 miles an hour, it will be me, this song, and the toll road where it's an 85 mile an hour speed limit and it's empty 80% of the time and you can fucking haul ass. As soon as like I'm through my car's break-in, this song, me, that road.
Say your job must pay you way better than I thought if you're getting a Testarossa.
No, God, I mean,
Fiero.
Honestly, I would not buy a Testarossa with that money. I would buy a Countach because I'm that guy, and it's just that was the car on my wall. But Testarossas are also cool.
What about a fake one?
No, that's a bad car.
Yes, no, I don't want a Fiero. No, they're both terrible cars. They're both objectively awful. If you want a Ferrari, you want a 355. But
what if you're a big fan of the Detroit Tigers? You got a mustache and you're in Hawaii and
yeah. 308s are cool too. Night Call.
Does the car come with cocaine though?
Yeah, they all do. It's like $20 bills all have cocaine on it.
Thomas
Ferraris
Magnum did not do cocaine. But Thomas Magnum never did cocaine. Higgins wouldn't put up with that shit.
Hell yeah.
You guys miss us for a few weeks and we're punchy.
Yes. Night Call is like vocals on an electronic track can very often take away from it and be a distraction. This is like the vocals make it. Because again, as Brett said, really, really proper use of a vocoder. Like if you're going to modulate vocals, do it fucking right. And this did it because it made it really cool. And if like there is a song that really captures the idea of like trying to escape to this like fictional future past. Like this song really does it for me. And then y'all remember that song that the Chicago Bulls played back when they were winning championships? It was called Sirius by the Alan Parsons Project. Road Game, the intro of that sounds like Sirius by the Alan Parsons Project. In like all
really weird.
really that like like just go watch Chicago Bulls intros from the 90s, and it's like that weird synthy keyboardy thing, and I had no idea what that song was. I'm like, oh, it's Alan Parsons Project. Yeah. It sounds exactly like Road Game, like the intro to it. And it is notable because that intro is so like.
I get what you're saying. It's a super like the moving piano line, but it's super synthy. I get it. Okay.
Yeah. It's I think
I hear it.
Yeah, it's there. It's not the same, but it's like of that aesthetic. So this album, it is the aesthetic meme in music form, but like it's really, really good at it.
Yeah. This is my aesthetic.
Yeah.
I would like to give a special shout out to Suburbia for having I think probably one of the most cool rap goes here generic raps.
we have some space to fill. We need some rap.
Let's put some raps.
Is there somebody that used to be a guest on Yo MTV Raps? Can we get that guy? So all right. Sound the guy that's
let me get on Ed Lover. What's going on? We need somebody.
Though to his credit, he was one half of the hip hop duo Mobb Deep. Though I wouldn't say this is the highlight of his work, but it was fun nonetheless because it didn't need to be much, substantively speaking. Just cool rap goes here.
To be fair.
Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about some conclusive thoughts to bring them back around the horn. Brett, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
Well, I would conclude conclusively that this album has made it into a working playlist. Like it's a pretty great album to put on, because just like most of the music I like to put on that doesn't rely on lyrics, it delivers music that will not distract me from my works, and it also speaks to my aesthetic. So I'm a weirdo who listens to like weird, like guys had to haul around, tons of gigantic console synthesizers and stuff to make weird noises. I enjoy that, but I can also enjoy a guy with a MacBook Pro making awesome music. So, your mileage may vary, but it wouldn't hurt to listen to it anyway, just for context, to know what this Outrun stuff was from a couple years ago.
Yeah. Patrick, what would be your conclusion on this album?
If I'm doing the gritty reboot of Initial D, I'm replacing the Eurobeat with this. That's where it needs to be. Like it is.
Oh my god, that would be the best.
Yes, that or Wangan Midnight, which is like Initial D but for nerdier nerds. It's Initial D but for like.
I haven't seen that. Is that on Crunchyroll? I might.
I don't know if Wangan Midnight is. There's no dub of it, but I've seen some of it. It's pretty rad.
No Hachiroku, no deal.
No. There's an S30 Nissan Z 240Z that's called the Devil Z that tries to
also.
And a Turbo 911.
Cowboy Bebop recently, so maybe I should actually.
You're a little late to that one, but it's fucking
yes, I know I'm late, but like when every lo-fi hip hop channel that I listen to says, "Hey, this reminds me of Cowboy Bebop," eventually I'm gonna take notice.
You will go down the seatbelts rabbit hole, and you will be happy. Just download all the soundtracks; they're worth your time if you haven't already.
I will.
You will worship at the.
They set fight music to jazz, or they set fights to jazz music. It's great. Yeah. I get it now.
Yes, Yoko Kanno is your hero.
Wangan Midnight is not on Crunchyroll, unfortunately.
You can find it places on the internet. It's not a show that was ever really localized. It should be, because it's like Initial D but replace drifting with late night highway racing. Just telling a different part of Japanese car culture.
I'll take some subs, man. But yeah, as you were saying.
I love this. I think it is hashtag aesthetic, but like it is hashtag my aesthetic. It's great. The music's good. The the era it's aping, as Brett said, like he's not super into 50s revival, but like he can do some 80s revival, and I'm with him on that. There was good pop music in the 80s.
If this was recreated today for 90s music, could you get away with calling it the Midnight Club? Or was that late night? No.
That wasn't.
So One Good Midnight is about
Speed.
conceptually about the actual Midnight Club that was an actual.
No, I'm just stealing video game titles based on their decade.
The Need for Speed.
But yes,
Need for
Speed, the genre.
Yes. It would just be Gran Turismo 2. That is the next genre of music.
I would go for 3 because Snoop Dogg is rapping about Gran Turismo 3.
Well, no, he did that on a Need for
before
Speed
the game existed.
too.
Yeah.
That was
what about the Top
Need for
Spin
Speed
rap
Underground
song?
2 had Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg was in. Well, never mind.
Yeah.
He also made music with Willie Nelson. Just got to remember that.
Who I'm seeing on Friday.
Sweet.
Cool.
Ask him how Snoop is.
I will. I'll be like, how's Snoopy? From my Raptor seat.
Enjoy your contact high.
Yes.
It's a benefit show for Harvey Relief.
Yeah.
But Willie's on
For
it.
you in the room.
Willie's on it, and I determined when I moved to Austin, I had to try to see Willie at least once while he is still alive. Although he will probably outlive us all.
Yeah. But yeah.
Doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of weed there just because it's a benefit to Harvey. Like you understand,
there's other people.
Like fucking.
Yeah.
This
You're
is
also in Austin. I mean, come on.
And it's Willie Nelson. Like there's going to be hella weed. Like
the dankest. Yes. No, this album is just a cool stylistic album, and it's fun. It's just a lot of fun beats and a lot of fun sounds, and it's a fantastic driving album. It's worth your time to at least check out, but it's definitely worth your time if you like this to just explore more. I think overall, I still think Outrun, the synthwave genre, is more a playlist genre than it is an album genre, at least to me. So this is a good jumping point, and then go out and seek playlists and have a nice mix of styles. But yeah, I don't know what you were gonna say. Jump off of that, Drew.
Oh no, I was agreeing with you to a point.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, Drew. What would be your conclusions on this album?
I think as an album, like PD said, there's a lot of other synthwave sort of stuff out there that's really good. You have your gunships and your pilots and whatnot, and they're all really good stuff. They make really good music. The thing is that I think that because this went in with sort of an idea and a concept behind it, that this works really well as a full album. Whereas some other stuff, I will like pick and choose what I want. It's kind of got that sort of going for it, I think, as a full album. Again, like Gunship, Pilot, Laserhawk, which I think is one of the best names in Outrun, is Laserhawk. Is all good stuff, but this is something that, like, if you want to get the vertical slice, like, this is it. I think it's really, really well done. Brett was talking about gear. Apparently, dude regularly writes music on a Yamaha DX7, so he knows where his bread is buttered.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know, it's something that I can put this sort of stuff on and really dig into. If I'm not going from a lo-fi DJ Okawari type stuff, I'm going for this. I had to bring in something from this because God knows I'm not bringing in like Blank Banshee or 2184, like some weird vaporwave shit that nobody understands and everybody hates me for. I'm gonna bring in the 80s retro stuff and leave it at that.
Yeah. And we're all better for it. Let's get into the main event of the evening. Finally back with another set of haiku reviews. Let's stretch our haiku muscles.
Let's appropriate some culture.
Yes. Let's get it started. Brett, what is your haiku?
80s beats and synth. A fusion of old and new. Great experiment.
Patrick, what is your haiku?
A Venn diagram. French house meets Miami Vice in a Ferrari.
I'm just seeing Hugh Laurie in a... Never mind.
Hugh Laurie can make some music. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, my haiku. Some cool synthwave sounds, though they can blend together. Still fun to drive to. Drew, what is your haiku?
New genre for me. A perfect sample of it. Can't help but love it.
Yeah, and those are our thoughts on Kavinsky's Outrun. See right there. You can, of course, find it on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers the home game. Get through your hurricane experiences with our special giant playlists if you have like cell phone service, like I did because I had Verizon. It was the only Verizon was the only company working during and after the hurricane, which is crazy. But yeah, play Record Breakers the home game on that Spotify playlist will be next week's record, and that's my pick. We're gonna have a little bit of getting back to some hip hop sounds, with Jurassic 5 and the pretty cool album Power in Numbers. It's gonna be a fun discussion. So join us for that when it comes. But that is then, and this is now. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at Swagger. Brett is at HeyBittyBibbert, HIBBITYBIBBRD. Drew is at XJuiceForX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for listening to other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. And we're on Stitcher. We're on all the iTunes. We're on everywhere you have podcasts. So go check it out. Like, subscribe, share, do all those things. Until next time. Hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.